Matthew chapter 11, verses 1 to 6, is one of the most baffling portions of Scripture. John the Baptist sends his disciples to Jesus to ask him whether he is the Messiah or if they should look for another. It's almost impossible to believe that this could be true. How could John the Baptist, of all people, be asking this question? John was the one who prepared the way before Jesus. It was John who said the sandals of Jesus' feet he was not worthy to stoop down and untie. And John to whom Jesus himself came to be baptized. John heard, as Matthew 3:17 records, the Father say from heaven, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased." And so how on earth could it be John who is unsure if Jesus is really the one they had been waiting for? While this puzzling question buzzes around your mind, I want to draw you back to remind you what series we're going through. We're looking at the life of Jesus in his Old Testament context. We're trying to understand more of who Jesus is by looking at his life in the light that the Old Testament sheds on it. With this in mind, let's go back to the rather perplexing narrative we are looking at this week. How can John the Baptist's doubt be made sense of here? The key is in seeing that John, like the rest of the first century Jewish community, thought that the Messiah would be a political liberator, that he would free the Jewish people from the tyranny of their Roman oppressors. And here John finds himself in prison because he got on the wrong side of Rome's overseer, King Herod. It's no wonder poor John is confused about whether Jesus is the Messiah. But no sooner do we come to understand why John the Baptist was having this sort of doubt, than we are given something else that is difficult to understand. And that is the way that Jesus responds to John the Baptist's question. In typical Jesus fashion, he doesn't provide a straightforward answer. Yes, I am the Messiah, is what we might want or expect Jesus to say. But instead, he responds with, "Go tell John what you hear and see. The blind receive their sight and the lame walk. Lepers are cleansed and the deaf hear, and the dead are raised up. And the poor have good news preached to them. And blessed is he who is not offended by me." Jesus has an incredible knack of avoiding answering a question. He loves deflecting a vicious question by asking another question, or changing a shallow question by asking a much deeper and heart-changing question. Here, though, it looks as though John has asked him a direct question, and Jesus has completely ignored the question and just gone on to tell him what he has been doing with his time. But upon closer analysis, this is not what Jesus is doing at all. In fact, here, contrary to his usual approach, Jesus actually answers the question directly. How so, you ask? To see this, we have to understand what the Old Testament said about the coming Messiah. One of the most important books in the Bible for understanding the life of Jesus is the book of Isaiah. Though written 700 years before Jesus was born, it predicts what he would do with incredible accuracy. So when Jesus is asked by John if he is the Messiah, he responds by showing that he is fulfilling what Isaiah predicted about the coming Messiah. Let's take a look at that. Jesus said that through his ministry, both the blind and the deaf were having their senses restored. Well, Isaiah 29:18 reads, "In that day the deaf shall hear the words of a book. And out of their gloom and darkness, the eyes of the blind shall see. Isaiah 35, verses 5 to 6, repeats this promise of the restoration of the blind and the deaf, but adds that the lame shall leap like a deer. This explains why Jesus draws out John's attention to these aspects of his ministry. Letting the blind see, the deaf hear, and the lame walk. And then finally, Jesus asks John's disciples to relate to him that he has been preaching good news to the poor. Again, Jesus isn't just doing this to show John what a nice guy he is. In saying this, he is showing that he is the fulfillment of Old Testament prophecy. Isaiah 61:1 says, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the poor." If we did not have the Old Testament, or if we do not read the Old Testament, we would think that Jesus' response to John's question in Matthew 11 is completely arbitrary. But nothing could be further from the truth. John asked if Jesus was the Messiah, and instead of just saying, "Yes, I am," he proved it. He proved it by showing that he is the fulfillment of what the Old Testament said about the Messiah.